You are watching the video version of the Marketing Should Be Fun podcast. We are so glad that you are here. If you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can find the Marketing Should Be Fun show on any of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else. But most of all, we're so glad you're here, and I hope that you enjoy today's conversation. Well, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Should Be Fun. My name is Austin Savage. I'm the founder of Savage Content Collective, and I'm here with my good friend, Kelsey Zarko, who is the founder of Curate. Kelsey, how the heck are you today?
Oh, I'm so good. We didn't get to record together last time, so I'm just really happy that we're hanging out again.
I know. I miss you. It's been too long. I need to hear all your thoughts, all of the things that are happening in your world that you're thinking about.
Wow. Well, technically today we're going to hear all about yours, so I'm sorry. You can come back next time for mine.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. That is an unfortunate reality. I have, and not a this or that for us to open up with, but just a question. It's summer, and so we got to break the rules because who wants to follow structure and rules in the summer? You know what I'm saying?
Every type A eldest daughter. That's who.
Describing you specifically.
You're married to one. You know me. Yes. You got it on all sides.
Yeah, that's very real. But my question today is, we've done some summer themed this or that's in the past. I'm curious, are you guys going on any vacations this year? And if so, where?
This is such a fun year to ask me that because we are. Normally our answer is we're coming back to Illinois to visit, which is fun. But this year is really special because we're taking our kids to California. Hutch has never seen the ocean. He's 7. So it's not like super rare, but we live in Texas. And when he was 8 months old, we moved to Texas from Illinois. Mm-hmm. So we also had COVID in there. There was just a lot of like random things where we weren't going on big trips. We've spent some time coming back for weddings and babies being born. And so it's just been a couple of years of vacations that were more like family oriented than destination. So all that to say, we're taking them to California. We're going to do Disney for 2 days, and we're like staying in a Disney hotel and doing the whole thing.
As you should. It's the only way.
Yes, I'm so excited. I never went to Disney as a kid. There was 9 of us, so like that just wasn't really a reality. Totally. And I'm not a huge Disney person, but I do love watching my kids like be into all that. So I think that will be really magical. We went to Disney World just for one day when Piper was little. I was pregnant. It was very hot. This is going to be a redemptive experience for me. So we are going there for 2 nights or 2 days, and then we're going to spend the rest of the week at the beach. We got a hotel right on the beach. I'm so excited. So it'll be really fun.
Where is Disneyland in California? What city is that in?
Anaheim, I think is what it's called. It's very close to LA. So
yeah. That's so fun. Oh my gosh. I can't believe you didn't have a good experience at Disney World when you took Piper. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was fine. I loved it. Like we have great memories. It was just it was in July and I was like so pregnant. So it was hot and all of that. So it was more that side of things. She had a magical experience. It was awesome, but she was 4. So this will be, we've been waiting to take them on a bigger one when we knew they would both like remember all of it. So I'm excited for that.
Heck yeah. Specifically on Disney World, we've been talking about like, we're kind of at that point where we're like, it would be so fun, to take the kids. And we've been thinking it through, and it's just like minimum. I mean, you're spending $10,000 to $15,000 minimum. I feel like to actually like take them for the full experience. I'm like, that is.
Well, we didn't spend that. I would go more like a third of that, maybe. So maybe look into Disneyland and get a mouse planner or whatever they're called. So you don't pay them. Maybe
that's also what I should do. Yeah.
Yes, it was so helpful, and they are very good at their jobs.
Crazy. Have you been to California before?
Yes, I went one time after I graduated from high school with a group of friends, but we went to San Diego. So. Yeah, it was fun, but it was in June, and they call it like June gloom or something. So hoping we have a sunnier experience this time.
That's going to be so fun.
Are y'all going anywhere?
We are this year. Okay. So we're going down to Florida. My grandparents, growing up, they always had a condo on, like it's right on the beach. And we went there every other year when I was growing up. So like we would go to the condo in Florida one year, and then we go to Colorado for some reason the next year. And then we just switched back and forth.
Nice.
And still that same condo is available to like all of us kids now grown up and like with our families. Like we literally we stay there for mostly free.
That's amazing. Wow.
But we don't take advantage of it every year. And so this year, Larissa and I were like, why? It's been like 2 or 3 years since we've been there last. We should definitely go back. So that's going to be fun. We're trying something different this year because we have a baby, like a real baby.
Very baby.
Very baby. And that has made even just road trips, like when we go down to St. Louis, like it's just a few hours. Like you're stopping 3-4 times, it feels like. And if it's not, the baby, it's somebody else. And it's just been wild. So we've never tried this before, but we're going to drive through the night this time.
Okay.
And we're going to see what happens.
Wow. I can't wait. We're going to need a full report on that. It's going to go one of 2 ways. And you can tell us which one.
It's going to, either be just the worst experience ever. And then we're just stuck, exhausted the next day without even making progress. Or everybody will sleep pretty well. Yeah. And, so I think that I'll do okay for the most part, like getting us pretty far in the middle of the night. But I don't know how the kids are going to do with like actually sleeping in the car. So will
there be anybody there once you get there? Or is it just your little family?
Just us.
Okay, so no grandparents to be like, take these children, we're so tired. Okay,
yeah,
it's gonna be great.
That's a good idea, though. Maybe I should consider if that should be an option. But
like, hey, Mom, what if you flew down ahead of us?
With us,
I'm sure she'd love to.
Yeah, that's so fun. My brother used to live in LA, and so I've been there a couple times over in California, and then he just moved back to San Francisco, which I've never been there, but I would love to go visit. So I don't know if I'll make it this year, but I do hope to have a trip to California soon as well.
That would be awesome. That's exciting that he's so much closer. Although Australia was a pretty cool place to say that you had a sibling.
Yeah, but I never went, so it wasn't something I experienced. Womp womp. What are we talking about today?
Well, you said it's summer and we have to break the rules. So that's just going to be the theme of our whole episode. No, not really. One of my favorite things that I just always remember you saying, we said at one point we were going to put it on a t-shirt. We never did. Is that there's no rules in content marketing. You don't have to follow the rules. There really aren't any. Yeah. And you had kind of been sharing with me offline recently about even seeing this play out in different platforms, not necessarily that there are people breaking the rules, but just seeing content platforms perform different ways. So I wanted to talk about that today and just first kind of hear your overall thoughts on like content channels just having like their own value just as they stand, or maybe a unique concept that you've seen people doing that's very specific to a platform that maybe doesn't work the same way. A lot of our listeners might think like, oh, if I'm going to do this, I have to fit into this, and this box.
100%.
And I think you and I would both say, but you really don't. No. So that's what I would love to talk about today.
Heck yeah. I love this topic as a whole because there are no rules in content marketing. And actually you just reminded me, and we've said this on the podcast 1,000 times, but I really do need to order those shirts. It would be like so cool to just like, I can see it now.
Especially with our new branding and our new colors and all the things. I'd buy one.
Listen, I would buy one too, and I would have to because I'd have to pay for them. So I would be buying it. So.
You'd literally be buying all of them. So,
but truly, and I think it's something that people get just for this principle as a whole, right? Like it's something that can be hard to embrace, truly. And I think that's something, when people are looking for best practices on a platform, like those obviously exist, right? And if somebody's coming to us and it's like, hey, what would be the best way to, share this? Obviously the answer isn't just do whatever you want, like it's all going to be fine. But in some ways, like there is kind of a give and take too. There's not this perfect sort of like golden ticket, silver bullet, all the things to like, if you do it this way, it is, going to open up the doors, perfectly for your brand or your business. And so I think that frees up a lot of brands when they can embrace that, to not just take for granted, oh, if we post on social, it has to look like this, or we have to do this many videos, or we can't do static posts. We have to do videos because that's best practice. Or like that kind of extends into anything. Like I've seen a lot of nonprofit clients, like when we start working with them on emails, it's like the assumption is, well, if we're going to send emails, it has to be a newsletter. And so we have to have like, it has to be really long. We have to have multiple sections, has to give updates about the work that we're doing. And, you know, we're jumping in and like, actually, that's not how it, you know, has to look like. We can change this. We can be creative. We can send an email that's 3 paragraphs long. We can send an email that's a sentence long. Like there's so many different ways that you can use these channels in ways that can actually help you connect and do well. So I guess before I answer the second part of your question, does what I just said make sense?
Yeah. No, I love how you started that off, because my hope when we were talking about this is that people, I always think about our listener, and I don't want them to hear this and think, oh, I have to go break all the rules to be successful. Not what we're saying. There are still definitely best practices, best rhythms. Right. What works for you may not work for someone else. Like you have to find what feels authentic to you, which we talk about all the time. So I think that was a perfect kind of segue and intro to this. And I'm curious if you have more to share on that, go for it. But I also thought it would be fun to ask you to give some examples in kind of the ways that you're taking in content as an actual reader, listener. I want to get to our clients in a little bit, but I thought it would be fun to just share some real life examples of this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. On that, I think one of the interesting things with this principle as a whole is just the recognition that like the best practices come from somebody, right? And so it's like somebody is creating a trend. Somebody is doing something for the first time, using a video in a certain way for the first time. And there is this kind of widespread adoption that happens when something connects, when somebody's able to do something in a different way. And that doesn't mean, like you said, that you have to do something in a different way all the time, but it means that there always is somebody who like leads the way. And that is kind of where this principle comes from, is like somebody is changing the way things are done. And that makes room for other people to do the same. And then that kind of introductory space is, you know, where I love to see brands try to get creative with and see if they can find something that's like just unique in their own way, in how they're approaching, you know, different content channels. I think what's been in my head as far as examples, I don't know if they're the best, but I think that they at least help illustrate this concept. For so many of our clients, especially, I want to switch gears and talk about the podcast space for a second, especially in podcasts, you know, whenever we're talking to brands and they're thinking through a podcast, the immediate assumption every single time is just a standard interview show. I mean, like really, we have that, like, you know, that's what Marketing Should Be Fun is. We talk to each other. Sometimes we have a guest on, and, you know, it's follows a very similar format. And this is what most shows in the podcast space are, you know, whether it is one host that just interviews somebody different every time, or it's just, you know, 2 hosts who are chatting. You know, that's what a lot of podcasts are. But I've just seen so many examples of the podcasts that have their own concept that is separate from that, but still has its root in that standard, I guess you could say. Like a famous example would be like the show Hot Ones, where I forget the name of their host, but they, you know, literally just eat hot wings and he interviews them, and it like gets like progressively spicier. And that's the concept of the show. Every single guest who shows up on this show, you're watching them eat these wings, and you're watching them like literally suffer from the heat, and then answer like questions about their career and their life and their, you know, movie that they were in or whatever. And people attach to the concept, right? It's not just the host that they're connecting with, it's the concept itself that is interesting and something that they want to engage with. There's a show that I've really been enjoying recently. It's from a channel on YouTube called Mythical Kitchen, but they have a show called Last Meals. And every single guest that comes on to this show, they like pre-provide what their selections would be for their last meals. So like if they could only have, you know, one of all their favorite courses, what would those be? And sometimes it's literally things like my mom's lasagna or something, and they go out and find the recipe for this lasagna. They make it exactly that special way, or they like go to that specific restaurant to get their favorite thing to make sure that, you know, that it's authentic. And then they sit down and they're like telling stories about these meals, but then they're also like, it's a foundation for conversations about their life, and for that to lead into conversations about their career and their past, and, you know, what they've struggled with and experienced, and all of those things. And I think that I bring those up because those shows aren't like breaking rules necessarily, but they are leading with creativity and letting the concept be something that builds a greater brand and that creates opportunity for people to connect with other things that those people are doing beyond that show and beyond that podcast, even if that podcast is how people are first kind of discovering these hosts, the brand, the people. And, you know, there's so many other similar examples. And I think something that I've been thinking about a lot recently is just that, like, I want to see more brands doing that on the corporate side, like on the entrepreneurial, building a business, right? Like, how can we be creative with the ways that we're using content channels and embrace this idea of like, how could we have a concept that people connect with, that people can expect, right? Like if you're watching an episode of Hot Ones, you expect that the structure is going to be that they're going to eat these hot wings. It's going to get progressively hotter and it's going to be funny for the last, 8 minutes, because it always is, because you're seeing people sweat and need to drink milk. And it's like, you can expect it, but that same principle can happen on social, right? Like even for our listeners, like thinking of the social accounts that they connect with, there's like so many of those couple accounts that, go big, where it's like, all of their stuff follows very similar, like, connecting with this account feels like this. A lot of their content, feels like this. It's a skit. It's they always give educational content about this aspect of a relationship. They always start with something funny and then lead into, something more serious. All of those things are concepts that we can lean into to build anticipation, to build expectancy around our content and actually perform better with algorithms, even if people aren't choosing to follow us. Like, we're creating those opportunities for people to connect with the concept and keep engaging.
Yeah. It makes me think of even just what we've seen on Instagram with on TikTok with like clean talk, or, it's literally just channels of people like, come clean with me today. And I love to sit there and watch them. It's so funny, the different, and it's like, oh, I know if I go to this girl's channel, I know what to expect. The concept is we're cleaning something. She might have a brand she's partnering with, she might not, but like that is just kind of her concept, and she's leaned into it. And it's not like those creators are like, oh no, I need to have 7 content pillars and they all have to fit into these things. Like they've kind of leaned into one concept, and you get to know their personality behind that, but the concept kind of can lead. And so I totally agree with that. I think I've seen this on like email platforms too, for sure. There is, I'm going to bring out my girl, the lazy genius. We should count like how many times can Kelsey bring her up on this podcast?
Like 12 at least.
Sponsor us, lazy genius. Yes, she sends out a normal newsletter. She's a podcast host. Her podcast is very much, she sits, she talks, it's done. So nothing like super concept heavy there. And she sends a normal email telling you the podcast is live, but then she has like a separate list you can join that's like just reading, and it's like all her book recs. And each book rec she gives you like, here's who I saw acting like in my head, this is who I would cast for this. And so that's like not complicated. Like that's a simple concept. Nobody is like, oh my gosh, a book list, no one's ever done this. But that just reminded me of an example of like, that's a different concept, different people connect with that. I'd rather read that one than, I like skim her other ones, but that one I'm like, let me get my coffee, I'm gonna sit and read this like a magazine. And it's just a different way, a different connection point that she's inviting. So kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen that in the email space too. Even just on, this was a bigger conversation a couple of years ago, I feel like, in content marketing. But for a lot of brands, when they start email marketing, the initial assumption is you need a freebie of some sort to get people onto your list. And so the concept is always like, okay, what's this thing that we can like make interesting enough that people are willing to give us their email in order to access? And we still do that, all the time for our clients. It is effective.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of conversation a couple of years ago in content marketing about making the newsletter value on its own and making sure that you're communicating like, people should have a reason just for the newsletter itself, right? Like for the emails that you're sending. And if you can have a concept that is strong enough, like that acts as its own freebie in a way, right? Like every day you're going to get one copywriting tip, or you're going to get one, whatever. And that like on its own is something that's like, that is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I want that email with the book recommendations and who you're going to cast for those, because that's going to give me something to read. Like, like I don't need you to give me the 10 best books of 2026 in order to access that, because the concept on its own is strong.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's a good reminder for our audience, like, you are the concept. Like, I definitely agree. Yes. Like, you have this hot wings, like that's super funny. Sometimes it is literally just like, I am sharing my thoughts. And if you would like to get them, sign up for this email, and it'll be like 600 people joined your email list. Like, yes, because people connect with you. And likely that comes from you already building trust, building a brand, sharing yourself and being authentic. But I think it's just a good reminder there too. You can break the rules a little of just invite and trust your audience that they can connect with you in ways that they want to.
Yeah. And to bring that same principle to social, I mean, that's something where it's not breaking a rule. Like, it's better to lead with your personality on social. Like, that is the best practice. But so many assumptions that we carry into our content strategy, and you and I both see this a lot for entrepreneurs or brand leaders, like, is to try to professionalize, try to mask kind of the like true personality. And so there's this thought of like, oh, professionalism is the best practice. So in order to better connect and better represent my brand, I have to hide myself. And the reframe there and the breaking of rules is like, no, we can be authentic to who you are and lead just with your thoughts. And like you said, that can be the concept, right? Like, by following this account, you're going to get 30-second videos from me where I'm sharing what I think about while I'm waiting in the line to pick my kids up from school. Like, that is the concept. And I mean, that's a super simple one that people can lean into. Yeah.
I would argue that's like the biggest shift we're seeing in content marketing 100%. In general right now, is like, in a world of everything that we're not really sure if it's real or not, just give me who you are and the real thing. I'm curious if you have seen or have examples, like we said, with our own clients. We, of course, a lot of times are coming in and helping them establish consistency, establish a brand, establish some rhythms. And so those more, maybe cliche practices we definitely bring into play. But are there examples with your own clients of how you've seen them or how you've encouraged them to shift into leaning into a concept, or just maybe shaking out of those like normal rhythms that maybe they had beforehand?
Yeah. We've kind of been in conversations with a few of trying to introduce this recently and trying to figure out what channels to do that with. I know for one of our clients, they're marriage coaches, and we haven't moved to where they're all of their content. They have a lot of service offerings that use the kind of comparison language of like your 1.0 marriage versus your 2.0 marriage. And so we've been doing these consistent reel styles where it's like a 1.0 response versus a 2.0 response. And it's like the same structure where like we show a skit of them doing the wrong response of how they used to. And then we show the skit of them doing the right response. And then they explain what the difference was at the end.
I noticed those. They look really good. I like them.
Thank you. And honestly, they've done really well. Like, they were in a little bit of a dip from an engagement view standpoint. And just kind of introducing that has brought, that engagement back up, and is like their top content when we look at recent months. But for other clients, I think just in the principle of also like helping people sort of start breaking their own rules, I think also like just helping a lot of organizations have fun with their content has been something that we've been doing. And it's not a concept on its own, like I, was highlighting earlier. But it has opened a lot of doors for people to better connect with the team. And even for like teams that are doing really serious work, we work with a lot of nonprofits that are doing very meaningful, very serious work. We want to be, delicate with how exactly we're bringing this about. But like, we don't want to be afraid to still showcase like the team enjoying working together and the team having, fun. Like, there still is a whole culture that is so easily hidden if all we're kind of thinking through is like, we just need to communicate kind of the severity of the issue that we're solving. And we miss out on that opportunity to be like, actually, like, we're a team worth supporting because we are, we work really well together and we have fun. But we like we care very deeply. And so there's been a lot of nonprofits that we've been working to kind of incorporate just that style a little bit more, which has been interesting and kind of adjacent to what we're talking about. But yeah, I think it connects.
No, I think it totally connects. I think the whole concept of talking about concepts is to just, I hear us saying, don't be afraid to shake out of the mold that you thought you lived in. And we're seeing this happen on more grandiose scale. And we're also seeing it on like, hey, every third post, we actually talk about this instead. And we're seeing it just connect in a different way. I have a client that we both used to work with who is mostly in hair education, but she's recently been like moving into sharing just more of how like, yes, she healed her curls, but like along the way, she also healed herself too. Yeah. And sharing more of her journey of like, I had a really hard friend situation and this is how I healed. And like people are all about it. And so just another piece of proof of like when you are vulnerable and let people in a way that feels like safe and right to you, it just does bring more connection points. And on like a less maybe dramatic scale, I also got to experience this with a client with her emails instead of just that standard, like, here's what I've been up to and here's all the sections, which are great. I think another thing I wanted to bring up too is like sometimes you still do those and you intermix a different style in and like both are good and right. And so don't feel like you have to throw out your whole newsletter format, but she has a super interesting niche of being a Bible teacher, but she has a psychology degree and kind of starting to live in this space between of like both of those things are true for her. And she wants to meld them together of like, we have a lot of things in our lives we need to heal from a psychological viewpoint. And here's what like the God's word says about that. And she's just doing it in a unique way. So we started this new email section where it's just called Becoming Us. And she just shares like a kind of almost like, hey, I got a doctorate in psychology. Here's some thoughts for you. And people have really responded to that. So not a dramatic shift, but just less of a like, here is my newsletter section and more of, this is a problem I see happening in our world and I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah. Is that so that's something that's actually gone in the existing format for emails. It's not been like a separate email that year.
Yeah. It was just shifting into like hey, let's put this in your newsletter and see how it responds. And her click rates and open rates are fantastic. So that's exciting.
Heck yeah. I love that. We have clients who've done that too with like what I'm watching lately, products you should know about, like even just like little things like that, where it's like, here is, 3 of my favorite TV shows as of late, or, little things, but that's going in their greater newsletter. Like, I think that's such a great reminder and a great principle to add in of like, you can use the existing formats and create kind of a more personalized concept within it. That's super strong.
Okay. Well, as we have covered all of this and people's wheels are turning, processing everything, I'm curious what you would say to the listener who has an idea or has even been like feeling pulled to this direction of like, ooh, I maybe feel bored with my content. I maybe feel inspired to try something new, but I'm nervous. I'm unsure. I don't want to be seen as unprofessional. I don't want this to flop. What if it ruins everything? Like, what would you say to them if they're on a Zoom call across from you? Because you have done this many times with real 100%. Life clients.
Well, your idea would have to be wild for it to actually ruin your life or your brand.
It's important to say that, like, remember perspective, like there are no rules. This is not going to ruin everything.
Truly. And I mean, obviously knowing the context is always important to answer, this question, because the industry that you're in and what you're trying to accomplish, like that obviously does impact the things that maybe you should or shouldn't do online. But if it's something that actually is like, oh, I would really love doing this. I think that this would be a good idea. Like there's probably a ton of truth to, where that desire is coming from for you and what you're seeing. I mean, every listener here knows their industry and their business and the place that they have in it, like really well. And you see gaps, like even if you're not consciously like, oh, that's a gap, nobody else is doing this. Like you see opportunities, you see things that people are doing that you wish that they were doing a little bit differently. You see that ways that people are bringing awareness that you were like, actually, I wish that we like, could find a way to do it this way instead, or to have these conversations instead of those. All of those are valuable insights that I think are very true to you and very likely true about kind of the overall sort of audience and market you're trying to fit into. So, I mean, I would just say, like, try it. And it doesn't have to be like you highlighted, Kelsey, it doesn't have to be your whole thing right away. Like for the client I mentioned, like we're sporadically putting in those concepts that are the same, just, the content is what differs. But, if we really started to see like, okay, maybe this is something we start doing weekly, and then something we start doing twice a week. And, before we know it, like, okay, that actually kind of is what our account is, like that is something that you can grow into and just see, like, does this connect? Is there a way that I need to shift this? Did people respond more negatively than I expected them to? It doesn't mean that the whole concept is bad, but maybe the way that I was approaching it just didn't hit the mark like I was wanting it to. But if those people are just your peers and they're people who are also in the space, who freaking cares what they have to say? Yeah. But if those people are the people that you're trying to reach and actually engage and want to, you want them to be engaged with your brand because they bring value to what you're trying to build, that is, that's the insight that we need to take and apply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. What I hear you saying is, don't be afraid. Just try it. That doesn't mean you're throwing your whole brand away by just trying something new, and then watch and see how people respond and give it some time. And I think it just reminds me, like, our show is literally called Marketing Should Be Fun. And if you're not having fun with your content in some sort of way, switch it up, because it is a job. There are things that have to be done, but it should be fun too, and let you have just a creative outlet to share the gifts you have to bring to the world, because we believe somebody needs those. So go have fun with your content this week. Come back next time for another episode.